Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Micadelic. I'm Mike Brancatelli. Got a great episode for you today. I'm talking again with my good friend Chi Amsterdam of Truffles Therapy and Trip Sitters, tripsitters.org, trufflestherapy.com. And many of you might be aware of Chi, maybe from listening to this podcast, from one of the episodes that we recorded earlier in the year or last year. So if you haven't listened to that one, go check it out. It's a great one. Had a great conversation with him. Really, we were talking about like society and culture and, the government and corporations and just a lot of different things. In this one, we're still kind of touching on some of those things, but we're talking more of like the state of psilocybin in the world today and in America particularly. And, I feel like Chi's a guy that has his finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I've been following him on Facebook, since our last conversation, and we've kept in touch. And he's always posting really good questions that are really engaging, a lot of thought-provoking questions and good community discussions. So invited him back on to have a chat about what he's doing now, what he's got going on, what he's thinking, what he's feeling, what he's going through, what he's working on, how Truffles Therapy is doing, how Trip Sitters is doing, and all that good stuff. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. And if you do, best way to support the show and help it grow and spread the message of psychedelics and liberty and freedom and, consciousness expansion and provoking new ideas of thought and new and novel and diverse opinions and perspectives within the realm of consciousness and reality and psychedelics and spirituality and civilization and culture and psychology and philosophy and, all the good stuff, all the interesting, juicy little tidbits that I like to plug into my neural meat computer and play with. So download your plugins and install them, and I don't know what I'm saying. All right, just enjoy the conversation. It's a good one. But if you like to support the show, the best way to do that is easy. Just if you're on your smartphone, if you're on your iPhone, whatever you're on, just go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and review. That helps boost us up in the algorithm, and more people have access to it. More people can see it. If you want to write a review, that's great. I always appreciate those. Thank you so much. And I always post them because, it just makes me feel good. I appreciate the time that people take to write how they feel about the show. And so thank you to all the people that have done that. Thank you to all the patrons, the new patrons. Big shout out to all of you guys. Thank you so much for your love and support. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you to all my longtime patrons. Thank you to all of you guys for sticking with me and helping support and fund this project and grow it and share it and spread to more people. So thank you to the new patrons: Andrew, Brandon, Rocky. Who else we have? Jeff. Thank you to all of you guys for your contributions in supporting the show. And because of your contributions in supporting the show, we hit our first Patreon goal, which I had set at $200. So we're at $206 now, and the next goal is $500. And, it's important because I'm just an independent, single, individual guy who is creating this thing because I love it and believe in it. And I'm always looking for feedback in better ways. It's 2020. We're at the beginning of a new year, a new decade. So I want to hear more. Like, what do you like about the show? What do you don't like about what don't you like about the show? What can I do better? What kind of guests do you want to hear from? All that kind of stuff. Message me on Instagram, Micadelic_podcast. Go to my website, MikeBranc.com. Fill out the contact page. Send me an email. Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are. Send me a message. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you want to go and support us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/MikeBranc, or you can just search Micadelic Podcast. There's a way to find the show there. You might have to do a little searching. You might have to do a little digging. I mean, I don't know, what's going on, but, I used to post on social media and get like a lot more attention and stuff. But, recently I've been having conversations with people that talk about like shadow banning and all this kind of stuff. And, the algorithms are different. They're promoting, content creators that maybe have more resources, and I don't know what the thing is. But anyway, if you like what's going on here, just do the best you can to try and help all hands on deck and come in and support. So patreon.com/MikeBrank, or just search Patreon for Micadelic Podcast, and you can donate as little as $1 a month, $2 a month. Give whatever you feel the show deserves. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just if you feel like giving, give. But I do encourage support in any kind. And if you like it, share it, subscribe. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes out every week, although sometimes I go a little bit longer than a week before putting out an episode, like I did with this one, just because I was in New York, I was traveling, it was the holidays, and then when I came back to Denver, I had a lot of stuff to catch up on, and I still want to do a solo podcast, kind of recapping 2019, talking about kind of my personal journey, where I'm at, how I've grown, how I've evolved, what kind of trips I've had, what kind of experiences have I had, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be releasing that soon. It'll be out shortly. But yeah, thank you. And go to hempbombs.com. That's the sponsor of the show, Hemp Bombs. You can get hemp-derived CBD shipped anywhere. Check it out. Put in the code Mike15 at checkout. You got to put in the code Mike15. I had a friend that recently was like, yeah, I got Hemp Bombs. So, I'm supporting your show. And I went and checked. I'm like, you didn't use the code. You just ordered from Hemp Bombs. That doesn't do anything for me or the show. I mean, I'm glad you're checking them out. Great. I hope you like it. But use the code Mike15. You'll get 15% off at hempbombs.com. And try them out. Maybe they're good. Maybe you like them. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But check them out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. What else? Oh, I have, if you're in Denver, if you're in Colorado, and you can make it on February 3rd, Monday night at Hooked on Colfax, where the Psychedelic Club meets regularly, I'm going to be kicking off the official launch of my new project called Mind Jams. And I don't know, I called it Mind Jams because the basic concept of it is just kind of like idea flow, just thoughts and feelings and whatever, just an exercise in, I guess, like brainstorming, and with no real goal in mind other just than to have interesting conversations that we might not have anywhere else. A lot of the times I'll get on the podcast and I'll talk to people here, or I'll do solo casts and I'll just kind of have a stream of consciousness flow of like whatever I'm thinking, and maybe sometimes it's a little rambly or political or whatever, but I like the flow of a conversation and just letting it go where it goes, and thinking about things that maybe we can't solve or there's no solution in sight, but at least we can think about them, and we can have an opportunity to share our experience and our perspective and what we think and what we feel. So and it's more than the mind. It's mind, heart, body, soul, consciousness. But I couldn't figure a word out that encapsulated all that, and that would be too clunky. So, and the jam aspect of it is, that's what it is. It's just a jam. It's just like a bunch of people who are interested in having like big philosophical conversations, waxing poetic about things, and, being, like armchair philosophers, and just spitballing and creating and collaborating in the moment, much like a jam band will do, and just kind of improvise and just lay down a little and lay down a little and lay down some and whatever, and let's just explore that realm of thought and what can happen when a bunch of people get together and just start talking about big ideas that maybe a lot of us don't really get to talk about on a day-to-day basis. So the Mind Jam is kicking off, the first one at the Psychedelic Club, and hopefully it'll be like a regular thing, anywhere, somewhere. But the first one is kicking off at the Psychedelic Club on Monday night, February 3rd. So if you're around, come check it out. The event's on Facebook. Check it out, Psychedelic Club. Big shout out to the Psychedelic Club, to Toby and Joey and Bethany and Dave and everyone there who puts on those events. And much appreciated. It's been like good home for me, and a good, since moving here, like finding other people who are finding the others, people that are interested in the things that we talk about on this show. And if you're interested in the Psychedelic, like starting one or joining one, just reach out to them and check it out. So yeah, if you're around, check that out. All that other good stuff. You guys know what to do. Thank you for listening. And without further ado, let's get into the conversation with my good friend Chi.
Psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window. Psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally laid down models of behavior and information cross-testing. They open to us the possibility that everything we know is wrong.
We don't need new laws that control our consciousness and rigidly place it in a prison.
Cognitive liberty. The fact that as adults, if we're not hurting anybody else, we should have the right to explore the contours of our own consciousness without any mediation or legislation on the part of somebody else.
Reject authority. Authority is a lie.
Or is it perception?
Information is power, but we have to seize the opportunity. The opportunity.
It is, it's cold, but it's not like freezing. I mean, it's like probably 56 today.
Okay. Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's beautiful, it's sunny, it's great. I think common misconception about Denver is that it's like snowing and freezing all the time, but it's actually sunny and beautiful all the time. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it gets cold, but today's not bad. How's it by you? Where are you in LA?
Venice Beach, yeah. It's really sunny, and it's sometimes cold in the morning and evening, but yeah, during the day it's like really nice sunshine and warm.
Nice. Yeah, you're liking it out there?
Yeah, I'll be out here for another couple weeks and then up to Oakland to meet with the people up there and explore what it's like to live in a place where all entheogens are decriminalized and see what kind of more activity can happen.
Oh yeah, man, I'm very interested in that. If I had the time, I would go out too. I hope to make it out there soon. I just had Danielle Negrin and Seth Warner from the Psychedelic Society on the show, and Larry Norris and Carlos Pizzola. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Pizzola, yep.
Yeah. So those are the kind of top movers and shakers over there. So definitely get in touch with those guys. I'm sure you're already in touch with them, right?
Yeah.
You're one of the top movers and shakers. So glad to have you on the show again.
I don't even think I am.
Well, you are moving and you are shaking. So, we're all shaking technically.
A little
bit. Vibrations.
Yeah, and I'm getting invited to speak at more events and conferences. So yeah, it is going to start shaking a little bit, for sure. But yeah, we're getting probably 20 requests for trip sitting a week, and it's getting pretty. We can't handle. I mean, we can barely handle one a month or two a month, So yeah, the space is growing so fast, and yeah, we need to train more people. I mean, this is just the beginning. This is like the calm before the storm. This is before the mainstream starts taking psychedelics,
Right. Yeah. Well, good, man. I'm glad we're talking about this because that's why I wanted to have you on the show. I feel like your fingers on the pulse of what's going on. You're always posting really good stuff on Facebook about, like just asking good questions. And a lot of people seem to be responding to that and engaging with you. And you're involved in a lot of stuff. It's not just Truffles Therapy that you're doing, but Trip Sitters, and you can name the other projects that you have going on as well. But yeah, so you have your finger on the pulse. 2019 was a great year. Now we're in 2020. What's the state of the psilocybin union, Chi?
Oh gosh, are we recording already? Oh shoot, we are. Okay. All
right, man. I didn't mean to.
No. It's totally all good. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different factions forming. The corporate interests are definitely coming in, and that's affecting everything. And I think it's, the local grassroots people, it's time to get organized and stop playing around, basically, because the corporate interests, they are very organized and they are not stopping just because we want them to stop. So if we want our vision of what the world can look like to manifest itself, then we have to go take massive action and yeah, keep speaking the truth. It can't just be little clubs on the local level. It has to be, we have to open our mouths to reach more people, basically.
Yeah. I know. Your most recent post was by it was from Nikita Alexandrov, who is with thinkmyco.com,
Mm-hmm.
and was talking about, I guess, what's happening in 2020 psychedelic industry insights and things like that. So yeah, who are some of the top corporate interests and companies that are moving, and what are they doing? I guess, if people want to go check out that post, they can go to your Facebook page and they could read the whole thing, but maybe you could give a little summary of what's going on.
Well, on the surface, it's a Thai Compass backed by Peter Thiel. I mean, they're the big movers and shakers. And there's other companies, a little smaller than that, of course. But really, behind the scenes, it's all the same people investing in all these companies and wanting to invest in all these companies. And, for a lot of them, their exit strategy is just to be, bought out by a pharmaceutical company or something like that. So, yeah, it's still relatively small time. I think in terms of business, when people talk about millions or tens of millions or even 100 millions, it's still pretty small on the grand scheme of things when you have companies that are worth whatever, a trillion or whatever. So um, I think it's still early. They're all still, developing, mostly researching and building the foundation and working with the regulators at the federal level to, gain control over who gets to distribute their form of synthetic psilocybin. Um, and then, and then it's really up to us to, yeah, keep growing our own, basically, and democratizing and working on the decriminalization efforts.
Yeah. So you were saying, like, yeah, we kind of have to step it up because these companies are moving no matter what. I mean, that is the
Yeah.
truth. They are moving no matter what. And
Yeah.
some people are like, well, I don't want to see this thing get like commodified and commercialized and turned into just like another business. Especially headed by a lot of people maybe who have never even tried psilocybin. They're just kind of in it for an opportunity. And then you have people like us more on the ground level. I don't have a lot of resources at my disposal to compete with like Compass Pathways or anything like that, but we do have the ability to educate ourselves, to learn, to grow, to share. So what do you think? Like, what are some of your thoughts around kind of like moving in the direction of kind of like moving forward in the direction that we want to see, and not getting kind of like caught up in whatever's going on in the corporate end, because that's happening no matter what. So like, is there like a fusion? Is there an integration? Is there a way we could work with them, or how do you see that?
I think, I mean, no one really knows how this is all going to turn out. And
Man, I was hoping you knew, I was hoping you had the
I,
answers.
I think, I think the, I think it's great because the corporate media types know how to get the word out, and they get published in things like Forbes and Economist and whatever, Newsweek, all the big publications. And yeah, just take it as a win for psilocybin that's getting out there. I mean, more and more people are reading about it, seeking out the medicine, and then it's really up to us. And it's not like us against them. It's no matter what we think, like we're all in this together to get psilocybin out, one way or the other, no matter how imperfect it seems. And people will decide whether they want to take the synthetic version and go to, a doctor's office to take psilocybin, or if they just want to grow it themselves, or, get it from a friend or something like that. So I would just keep focusing on what we can do on the ground, keep, speaking the truth and sharing the good news, and just have to have faith in the mushroom that it knows what it's doing and that it's a powerful force that has been evolving for more than 1 billion years. And yeah, we humans are not that big of a, we're not that big of a factor in terms of in the grand scheme of things, we're just pretty much a little blip in the history of the planet. So it's always understanding our place in the scheme of things and keep going on our own journeys, so we don't strengthen the sense of self that keeps popping up in this modern society, and just keep humbling ourselves, keep communing with the medicine so that we can receive the instructions and the vision and the guidance and do our best to follow it.
Yeah, that makes me think of, I don't know. I'm getting like a sort of like a Ram Dass kind of sense of like everything is the way it is, sort of like it's all kind of playing out in the way it is, And I think, like you said, the mushrooms know what they're doing. They sure as hell has told me a couple times, like, dude, we know. But yeah, I think that is kind of us sort of maybe getting out of the way a little bit more, not letting our egos and not letting our personal feelings and attachments to the way that we think things should be, or the way that we want it to be like this and we don't want it to be like that. Because I do think that everything can exist as a whole and as one. And, if you look at the sort of how humans have evolved through history, it's never smooth and perfect. It's never, it's messy and bumpy, and it goes in different routes and different channels, and it comes in different flavors. And, but yeah, I think that it sort of needs us in a way, right? Because like the mushrooms can't just, psilocybin mushrooms don't really just like work by themselves in a vacuum. They have to like put a human suit on, So, and we're kind of like marching around in the world doing these things, but there is still that getting out of the way aspect of it. And I think there's, a lot of people, and I've been using psilocybin for a number of years, and you have too. And there's this thing of like, oh, well, you must have had an ego death and you're good. And you have no more problems. You don't fall into despair. You're not, your humanness is so gone. You're just fully mushroom. But that's not necessarily the case, right? I mean, we all kind of have to contend with the meat bag that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good point.
Yeah, and I see that you post a lot about that on Facebook, and I appreciate your posts because they're really like engaging with good questions and things like that, and yeah, you've oftentimes posted about like I feel like I'm in despair, or I feel like I'm depressed, or something like that. Could you talk a little bit about like what that experience is like for you, and what kind of triggers that or causes that, if you don't mind sharing that?
Yeah, I have pretty. Yeah, sometimes I go through some pretty massive mood swings still. I think the mushrooms really open us up to our own suffering and to the suffering of those around us. So, I mean, in Venice Beach, there's so many homeless people, and it's hard to ignore their plight. It's hard to see people sleeping on the streets and just not feel anything. So yeah, and also we get so many requests and emails from people who are dealing with some serious issues: depression, anxiety, PTSD, addiction. So just reading these things and feeling into the state of their minds and in general of society, sometimes I get down a little, for sure. It's like, okay, so are we just hopeless here, or what's going to happen? Because I know that psilocybin can help, but also it's not going to resolve the root issues of the systemic societal causes that cause these mental health issues.
Yeah, it's a big problem here in Denver too, and it was funny because when the decriminalization initiative passed, 301, on the same ballot was Proposition 300, which was the homeless camping issue. It was almost like I see the two almost connected, in a way, because when journeying with psilocybin, I guess the kind of person that does that, you can't help but open yourself up more. And you're not only opening yourself up more to love and light, but you're opening yourself up more to plight and despair and emptiness and hopelessness. I mean, that comes with the territory of the space. As you increase, that space gets wider and wider, so you can't help but feel that pain, when you see these people sleeping out on the streets in the cold and this sort of thing. And it is like, man, what do we do? What can we do? So,
Yeah.
I think that this is the beginning, like you said. Like, it's the beginning is like getting this out into the mainstream, getting this out into the public consciousness, working on the decriminalization efforts, speaking the truth, and then maybe tackling some of these like societal issues. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that people who are practicing and working with psilocybin and other psychedelics would be more able to sort of have more insight and more empathy to tackle more societal systemic problems? Do you think that that's sort of a play that we could take?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think we get a little bit more insight into the issues, the causes of these mental health, issues. And it's really about creating spaces that people can come in and they can connect and eat together, laugh together, commune with the medicine together. So, I mean, it's not an overnight thing that we're just going to solve because we have the answers. We got to move ourselves and other people and dedicate our lives to doing this, So I think it's so many things have to come together for us to work as communities, and as it all starts with ourselves as well. If we can't help the people around us, or if we can't even help ourselves and we're getting depressed, like, we have to keep doing what's necessary to keep our mood elevated. I mean, I'm on mushrooms almost every day. So yeah, I mean, that's basically the one thing that keeps my depression and despair away. So yeah, and also just I think the mushrooms keep humbling us. They keep saying it's not going to be you alone that's going to do this. It's way bigger. It's a way bigger issue than just an individual or even just a single community. It's the whole global system, right? And yeah, and that's why some of us have to step up somehow and sort of put our lives on the line and just speak out, for the truth and for the things we witness. And we have to testify, basically, and yeah, point people back to themselves and to also something way bigger than ourselves. Most people are so stuck in survival mode that it's hard to think about this stuff. So how do we get people off survival mode? I think that's the first question. How do we get people not to just think about if they're going to run out of money today or tomorrow, next week? And so yeah, I don't have any answers, to be honest with you. I'm as confused as everyone else. No matter how much work I do, it seems like the people with depression keep piling up at my doorstep. So I sometimes get a little hopeless. I go, gosh, like, it seems like no matter how many people take mushrooms, more and more depressed people show up. So, and also not getting hopeless and also keeping this kind of optimism is important. And I think mushrooms and other plant medicines, communing with them very, very often can help us, keep our mood a little optimistic.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. I'm right there with you. And I think this is good too. I consider you to be an ally in this, and we, I relate to that. I fall into pits of despair. I fall into pits of hopelessness. And I work with, I microdose and take heroic doses and hycro doses and all kinds of doses. And I'm constantly doing work and meditating, but I think that's kind of like part of the path. It's like almost like if you're going to embark on this path, like it's going to come with this big challenge, and we need each other. I think that's the key, for people listening to this. It's like, that is the people message all the time. And it's like, you need to find the others. You need to connect with other people so you can have these conversations and relate and say, yeah, yesterday I was just feeling like, man, fuck it. The world's on fire. Who gives a shit? I'm out. I don't care anymore, because I think that just comes with the territory. It just comes with the territory. But if we have good allies that we can communicate that with, then we can kind of keep each other, hold each other, hold space for each other and hold each other accountable. So yeah, you mentioned that you're on psilocybin pretty much every day. I am pretty much once every 3 days, something like that. What's your protocol looking like? I'll share mine real quick. I take Stamets blend and some other stuff, and mainly like chaga and reishi and cordyceps and psilocybin. Once I follow the James Fadiman protocol, I feel like that's kind of the best one for me. But yeah, what's your kind of daily protocol looking like?
I mean, I'd say 5 to 6 days out of the week, I'm on anywhere from like 0.2 grams to 0.6 grams. So it's a little bit more than a microdose, sometimes a lot more than a microdose. And yeah, I just need to keep feeling my feelings and going through these kind of difficult emotions of sadness. And every day I have some heavy emotion to clear up and let the mushroom work its way through it. But yeah, I don't really think too much about protocols. I just take mushrooms as much as I feel comfortable with. And yeah, I mean, 0.6 gets to a point where I have to lay down and just be soft and just deal with my emotions for at least half an hour. Like I'm incapacitated. But on 0.2, I'm like, I barely feel it. I don't really notice it. 0.4, I'm feeling a little softer, but I can still go about my day pretty normally. So yeah, I mean, I live day by day. Just today, what do I need today? What do I need to get done today? And if I make it through the day, I'm all good.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I think that's a good message too, because there are there's like the Fadiman protocol and the Stamets protocol, and there's this protocol or that protocol. Everyone has a protocol. Everyone has a blend. Everyone, but yeah, listen to your little inner voice inside. Listen to your gut. And every day we're born again, new. From when we wake up, it's a brand new day, brand new life. And so you kind of have to just test it out and see. So that's good that you do that, and I would say that people, do that too. Do your research and find out, test things and just find out what works best for you. So that's cool, man. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, like, I think the whole message of the mushroom is to follow the intuition and follow the heart. And I mean, Fadiman and Stamets, I mean, these are not the only two people who are microdosing in the world. Everybody has their own protocol. And look at Fadiman and Stamets. They're completely different in what they recommend. So who's to say what's right and what's wrong and what a microdose is and what is not, and why you can't do more than a microdose every day? Who says you can't do more than a microdose? Who says you can't be lightly feeling the effects of the magic mushrooms every day? For me, I really like feeling the effects of magic mushrooms so that they soften me and keep me humble and grounded, right? So I like to take a little bit more than a microdose. And yeah, just it really, it's not listening to anybody on the outside. Like, listen to the mushroom and your heart and your gut, and forget about everything else.
Oh my God, Chi, how dare you talk about heretic? No. You're totally right, man. That's why I love you, buddy, because you've listened to your own inner authority. And I think that is, the things that we're talking about. There's so many things that come attached to the world that we live in. And like you were saying, the amount of people showing up with depression, all this stuff, it's like the amount of time, people don't have time anymore, and they're just kind of running on this treadmill. It's cliche to say, the rat race, the wheel, but that's really what it is. Because if people have more time, they would be able to listen to themselves a little bit more. But instead, they're giving their power away to other people. So yes, listen to yourself. You are your own authority, and that is a great way to do it. And if you got to do the research too, you got to educate yourself. You got to kind of test and see. It's not just to say like, oh, just slam 6 grams in your face. But hey, maybe that works for some people. I don't know. I'm the kind of person that likes to just dive off into the deep end sometimes, without going, but that's me. That works for me. I wouldn't invite, like you got to find out what works for you. Cool, man. Yeah. So you mentioned like when we were chatting before you came on the show, I think we had a great conversation. People really liked it. And you were like, yeah, a lot of things have changed for me. And I think you mentioned also your perspective has changed a little bit too. So maybe, talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what are some changes that has occurred for you, and what shifted in your perspective the last like 6 months or whatever?
Well, one thing for sure is when we first chatted, I think in February or March, I mean, we were just getting started with Truffles Therapy, and we were wanting people to come on retreat, and we ended up seeing more than 200 people, mostly from like April to October of this last year. And now, I mean, my first instinct is to get people not to come to us, like figure it out on your own, because it's a lot to handle, people coming in, and it's like the rebirth of a baby, and everybody needs a lot of therapy. And yeah, I mean, although I sometimes, my job is to listen to people mostly, but I can't listen to people all day, like just spilling their problems about depression, anxiety, PTSD. It's too overwhelming sometimes. So I need people to start microdosing on their own. And if you really want a session, then we can really talk about it. And also, I mean, I'm just way more selective about who I spend time with now and who I get on the phone with. And I think if we have the karma to somehow get busy in our lives, I think it's important to learn how to say no a lot. Just keep saying. I think we say yes to a point where we're overloaded, and then we have to start learning how to say no, no, no to almost everything, and being okay with that, not taking it personally that, oh gosh, I'm not good enough to say yes to everybody who wants me. Like, who cares? Everyone has to figure it out themselves. My job is not to make people happy. It's their own job to do the things they need to do. And people need to stop looking outside for the answers. They need to look inside. And all the research is out there. Like, it's not hard to grow mushrooms. If you really look for it, you can get mushrooms, and you got to just have the courage to at least start with microdosing. Like, guys, it isn't rocket science. It isn't something that's going to completely change everything from day one. It might take a few weeks or a month for you to even look back in retrospect and be like, wow, it did help a little bit, So it just people mustering up the courage and stop being so afraid of the unknown, basically.
Yeah, which is that's the first massive leap forward is conquering that fear. I don't even want to say conquering, but like moving through that fear, because this fear is always going to be there. Pain's always going to be there. And I think it's, learning how to move with that and hold that and carry that and take it to another dimension, and then when you get to the other dimension, what do you learn there? And then bring it back, and not just going back to the well, but, going to the well and then watering your plants and sweeping your room and things like that. Yeah, you sound like the Zen master that like people come to and they're like, well, and they're like, go away. You don't need me. And that's I like that, because it is like, Yeah, you're a human being, and you only have so much that you can have capacity for too. And then also it teaches other people to empower themselves, to learn on their own, grow their own. I think I'm a big believer in growing your own, getting your hands in there and your energy in there, and communing and communicating with the mushrooms, and developing an energetic bond with it, and kind of imbuing it with your for lack of a better word, energy. I was trying to think of something else, but yeah, yeah. I think that's an important first step. Because there is a lot of fear, and I think when people realize that, oh, maybe I can do this on my own, maybe that fear diminishes a little bit.
Yeah.
When you see that it's not. You don't necessarily. That's the reason why I love psychedelics so much, is because unlike spiritual teachings or religion, of course, government or anything else, there's no mediator in between. There's no interpreter. There's no third party that's translating. It's just you and the experience, and you take from it, what you will. Have you had any experiences lately that really kind of left you with a ear to ear smiling gaze of profundity and insight? Or fear and terror?
Yeah, I haven't gone on too many big journeys the last couple months. I've been on one 6-gram one, and a couple other smaller ones, and microdoses and mini doses almost a lot of the days. But yeah, still the big journeys are something different. I end up praying a lot. I end up lying there like a mummy and holding my hands on my heart, and yeah, really thinking. And then I bow. Like, I sit there for maybe, I don't know how long, because time is irrelevant on these journeys, but I really enter this bowing posture and put my head to the ground and humble myself a little bit. And yeah, now my journeys are really about thinking about how I can play a role in spreading this message as far and wide as possible, and also to the people who really need it. And nowadays, it's like it's like people who aren't really into mushrooms, they don't resonate with me somehow, so we don't connect. So nowadays, I only talk with people who are either really already into mushrooms or really will do whatever necessary to get their hands on mushrooms. Because I don't even talk to the people on sort of on the edge. I don't try to convince anybody of anything anymore. It's just, if you're ready for the mushrooms, then the mushrooms will call you, and maybe you'll reach out to me, and I'll be the final step for you to be like the confirmation of, okay, this is what I need to do. But yeah, I nowadays I don't have time for skeptical people. All the information is out there, and there are people who just need the final last human contact to make sure that this thing is real. And I end up being that person for some people. And yeah, and still, seeing people and coaching people through their journeys and seeing the big changes in them, every time it's magic. And I couldn't be happier, and there's nothing more fulfilling than this kind of work. So yeah, I'm just always in awe of how the mushroom is working, and really grateful that it's allowing me to be part of it.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm always in so much, just so humbled, and like on my knees, yeah, like praying, and just like, oh yeah, like if it's been a while since I've had a big dose, like, and then I'll have one, there's always a moment of like, oh yeah, right, okay, yeah. It's like, it's great. It's like psychedelics in general are just a great reminder. It's a great like I think there's the common misconception, or at least there was a common misconception. I think maybe now it's changing because, like you said, there's so much information out there. 60 Minutes, Forbes, Time Mag, everywhere. I mean, it's great. And I go to meetings here in Denver and talk to people who are in their 60s or 70s, and they're like, "Yeah, I never did it before." And then I read Michael Pollan's book, and I'm like, "Yes, great, thank you for being here." And yeah, but it's such like a great like windshield wiper clean off and just kind of like a computer defrag to like back to like, hey, remember? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. I'm sorry. And yeah. You're great. You're beautiful. Everything's amazing. Oh my God, so much wonder, love, light. Look at all the details. Look at all the radiant particulars of this amazing reality. Yes, I get it. All right, so we were. I forgot. I wanted to say something before, and when you were talking about saying no, because I think that and I forgot to say it, but it's like saying yes. Like I think that there's this tendency, like the sort of one dominant economic framework that we are operating in, which is you can't even call it capitalism because it's not that. It's crony capitalism, and it's not like we don't have like a total free market, but it sort of makes people adapt. It forces people to conform and adapt to survive, like to prosper and to grow. And you were talking about like, so many people, they say yes all the time, and, it's hard to say no. And, you have all kinds of places that are offering retreats and integration and this and that. And even me with my podcast, like I want my podcast to grow. Everybody wants everything to grow. And by doing that, we have to say yes all the time. But I found myself in positions where I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have said yes to that. Why did I say yes? Like I need a timeout. I need a break. I need to just say no. I need to like take a step back. Maybe I don't need 100,000 followers. Maybe I just need like a good core group of people that get it. But I'm curious to hear what you think. Like, do you think it's because we're operating in this like social media likes, comments, retweet, everything is like measurable in terms of numbers. So people are trying to hit numbers, and then people are trying to grow businesses so they can live and enjoy their lives. So do you think that's a part of like why everybody's saying yes, and people that had one mushroom experience, now they're running retreats and they're saying they're a shaman and we're going to do it all because of this model? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, this is a complex question.
Oh yeah, we're getting into the good stuff now.
I think in our society, we learn to attach our sense of self-worth to the numbers that are somehow on our screen or attached to our name. So I think that drives people to be like, if I say yes, it'll be more numbers for me somehow, right? And yeah, I think the mushrooms can somehow help us to see through that, or at least be aware of it and at least not take it seriously. Sometimes I make random posts on Facebook and I get disappointed if I get less comments than I thought or something like that. And I get really happy if somehow it's a really engaging post. I think, it's the environment is super powerful. And I think what the psychedelics teach us is that set and setting is not just for that one peak experience. It's about our entire life. What kind of mindset are we in all the time, day in, day out? Do we just get in a good mindset just because we're going to have a psychedelic journey? Or does the psychedelic journey teach us how important it is to always do our best to take the actions or non-actions that we need to maintain and stay positive and optimistic? And also the setting, like, do we set up an amazing retreat place and a clean room for our journey and then come back to a pigsty? All these things affect us. So yeah, it has a lot to do with set and setting. And I think it's just about developing more confidence in ourselves and somehow realizing that we have more value than just the numbers on our screen somehow. And I think it's about offering something of value that people talk about and then people contact us behind the scenes, and then we don't rely only on the numbers on the screen to determine our sense of self-worth. So it's having some kind of something other than what's visible in the public eye that can bring us some value, and not just determining our self-worth based on what the public thinks. Who cares what the public thinks? If 5 people are coming to us for something and we're somehow providing a service, then those 5 people are, we need to provide the service. And then we don't care so much about the thousands of anonymous faces and names and numbers out there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just kind of one of these like automatic traps that we can get into because of the framework in which we're operating in. Like when you said, you make a post and you're like, oh man, like I got 68 likes on that last one, but only 20 on this one. Damn, I suck. What's wrong with you? And it's like, no. It's just, we're like, and I think this is where the mushrooms can come in too, because it's like in that world, in that realm, it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like why are you focused on this one little thing? And yeah, but we have a tendency to get stuck in those one little things. But seeing the bigger picture, seeing the sort of the long game, the infinite game, so to speak, right? Like when I journey on big doses, like I'm not like having visions of like my bank account. I'm not like having visions of like, of like Wall Street and like, oh man, those stocks are going up. It's like, that doesn't even exist. It has nothing to do with that. It's ancient. It's old. It's like universal and true. And that permeates through the entirety of like my perception of the experience, so that when I bring that back, I'm able to see things in a much wider perspective, and it helps a lot. Although then again, you get stuck in that trap of like, oh, I got to post on Instagram today, or I got to do that thing. Yeah. And I think that there's a certain kind of faith or a surrendering, that comes with that, where it's just like, man, you just keep doing your thing. You just keep putting your foot out there. Doors are going to open. Opportunities are going to come. People are going to show up when they want, when it's right, when it's the right time. You've experienced that, right?
Oh,
it's kind
yeah,
of
for sure.
Synchronicities increasing.
Oh,
And
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, the faith is really important, the patience, and also just being in the mushroom energy. I mean, the more we take mushrooms, the more we link up with other mushroom people, and yeah, magic happens when mushrooms get together, basically. So yeah, it's about, and I think the more we take mushrooms, especially on a daily basis, like a little mini dose, microdose or mini dose, the more we can keep seeing that although the environment is powerful, that our own bodies are also its own environment, and that the more we keep this body, mind, and heart clean and free of these negativities, the less we actually think about numbers, and the more we think about how do I share this medicine with people. And then that's what the driving factor becomes is, okay, so who needs this medicine today, and how do I metaphorically get it in their hands as quickly as possible, basically. So yeah, it's just changing the things we think about and the things our mind focuses on, and that's what it's all about. And focus on the mushroom, and if we hold the mushroom or the Buddha or Jesus in our minds, then that kind of energy is also going to permeate us as well. And if we keep numbers and bank accounts on our mind, then naturally those things will stay on our minds, and then we connect with those people, and then we resonate with people who also think about money and numbers. So what do we resonate with? That's what it's all about. What are we vibrating with? Are we happy, or are we sad, and do we think we need something else, and are we chasing something? I mean, for me now, it's like so much less chasing. I just, every day I give as much as I can. And of course, sometimes I fall into deep pits of, negative emotions. But I think once we start giving, like the universe recognizes that, and somehow it flows more naturally, and abundance more naturally. When we recognize abundance as a truth, then abundance recognizes us as a recognizer, and it just allows things to flow a little. We enter the flow instead of thinking, how do I get something from the flow?
Yeah, and that's the mushroom language. Mushroom language is the language of flow. It's like infinite flow, infinite creation. It's yeah, and that's why I do think, I mean, look, people do what they want to do, but I value big doses, heroic doses, 5 grams and up, because it will completely reorganize your energetic framework of perception of this material externalized reality that we find ourselves plugging into every day. I mean, the Matrix had it right, like that it's such a great analogy for where we find ourselves in. And it's like, the more people that are able to kind of see the code, right? I think everything is kind of coded in a symbolic texturization and language and digitized number scheme and framework. But if you're doing big doses and you're kind of you're clearing yourself out, and you're gathering and collecting and being in touch with the infinite wisdom from that space, then you can kind of like see and work the chessboard a little bit more, and hopefully you're doing it for the better, right? And I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think like, do you think there's like people, do you think there's people taking mushrooms and like using their energy to converting it to like, for like nefarious purposes? I mean, do you think that that's something that's going, because I think I saw you post, or maybe it's on your Facebook, that it's like the mushrooms are love and light, like but I think that's true, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's a potential for like harmful use?
Well, everyone has their own karma, and the mushrooms just accelerate.
All right, so yeah, we got cut off because the NSA was listening in to our call, and they don't want us spreading the truth about mushrooms. So, but yeah, I guess I don't know. I was asking about like evil intentions or something like that, but I mean, maybe that's not such a great question. I don't know. I guess like, I think McKenna said it when he was like, he's like, psychedelics don't work on ignorant people, like they don't work on people who are greedy and kind of egocentric narcissists and stuff. They probably just enhance those tendencies, right? I mean, like, I feel like I've definitely seen this in the psychedelic community, if you want to call it that, or the spiritual communities. As Cho Young Trungpa says, everything can be converted to ego's use, spirituality, psychedelics, whatever we're talking about. And I know you definitely feel passionately about this, because I remember a post that you made about something about Andrew Yang, talking about just like, the business opportunities and that sort of thing. And, earlier in the conversation, we were talking about, so I guess getting away from like the evilness, because I don't even really know if there is such thing, but more of just kind of we see a lot of initiatives where it's like, okay, maybe we're gonna look at psilocybin, but we're only gonna offer it for medical use or therapeutic use, or it's only gonna be this way. And as we were talking about before, it's like, okay, the mushroom knows what it's doing, it has its place, but is there anything that you see as kind of, you kind of having your finger on the pulse of like the psilocybin movement? Is there anything that you see that kind of irks you or rubs you the wrong way, or you're just like, man, I wish they were going about it this way or that way instead of the way that we're seeing it?
Well, it's weird because I've started caring a little less about what's happening. It's like I've realized that my energy is valuable now, and I have to be present for the people reaching out to us. So yeah, I whatever is going to happen is going to happen, and I try not to get involved in too many conversations about the best way, or this way is not ideal. I think everyone's doing their best, and I think we human beings were limited in various ways in terms of our thinking and the way we're able to perceive an issue and to work together. I mean, so many people are fighting in the psychedelic world about little human things. So yeah, I think it's just important to stay positive and focus on what we can do with our lives to serve the people. And that might be about pointing out the hypocrisies. I mean, I go through phases where I like to point out hypocrisies, and then I go through other phases where I'm just too busy. I can't get involved in really, I can't be creating more enemies, basically, so I go into this.
Yeah, and using your energy to waste your energy on fighting rather than flowing, right? Like you want to be more in the flow. I used to be there, man. Like when I first started podcasting, and I was like a libertarian atheist and doing a political show, and I was just like really aggressive and assertive and getting in Twitter fights all the time. And man, I look back at that and I'm just like, whatever. It was a phase. It was a process I needed to go to, but I don't do that shit anymore, like ever. If someone says something to me on Facebook or Twitter that's like hostile or making fun of me or something, I always like return with like sort of a sarcastic, kind, thing, and just like, oh, thanks for educating me. Great, thank you. So yeah, well, I'm glad to see that you're taking that perspective. And then at the end of the day, when we think about it, yeah, it's like, man, like so much of what we're talking about here is like trying to navigate the minuscule minutia of the human drama with like the infinite abundant awareness of the mushroom magic, and it's like surfing that cosmic wave of the in-between. And because that's sort of what we are as human beings. We're like these in-between beings. We have the ability to create great abstractions and ponder infinite abundant amazement, but we're like housed in these like bodies that are literally decaying every single day that we move forward in this thing called time. And that never gets talked about. We're all gonna die, Chi. What's going on, man? Like we're all literally on death row. What are we arguing about? Why are we ever talking about? We never hear about this. It's never like tonight on CNN, you're gonna die. Everyone you love is gonna die. So be a little kinder and gentler to each other. And I know that, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, like I said, I think that you've just been really putting forward a lot of good conversations on Facebook. And one of them you made was about how death is hidden in our society. And I was wondering maybe if you could like expand on that, give me your thoughts on that and what you think.
Yeah. All the spiritual traditions talk about this world and then beyond this world. And yeah, I think it's about, again, what we as individuals focus on and what we decide to prioritize. And of course, I'm pretty much a worldly person. But yeah, I think it's about being around people also who have practiced a lot and aren't as stuck in this world. I think they can inspire us into thinking about something beyond. And most of these people might not be, it's not about, success then. It's not about status. It's not about money. It's about something beyond that. It's something more permanent than these temporary worldly gains. So, the Buddhists teach that the teacher is the most important thing, and that you have to hold on to your teacher even if he tries to kick you away and throw you out. So yeah, it's about being around those elders, and they might not be psychedelic elders. They might be a monk or something, or a nun, or someone who's been living in the forest for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. So I think it's also, for a lot of people in the psychedelic world, it's also about seeing beyond our little bubble and realizing that there's a world beyond just these little psychedelic clubs and societies and cliques. And I think that's also how the psychedelic community can mature a little bit, is to start including more of society in the conversation, and it's not about us versus them and someone's going to hurt the psychedelic community or world. It's like, no, the mushrooms and the fungi and the cacti, they're for everybody. And they don't belong to us just because we've been taking them for 2, 5, 10 years. It's, a person who takes it for the first time, who's had 10 years of spiritual practice, might already be more developed spiritually than someone who's been taking psychedelics for 10 years, but is still, drinking alcohol or everything. So.
Right. Yeah. I remember. It's like I was listening to this McKenna talk like a couple weeks ago, and he was like answering some questions for one of his lectures, and he was talking about taking bigger doses and how often and things like that. And there is like you have to be able, I think, to like relate to the non-psychedelic world, in a way. Like it's fun to kind of get far out and have conversations about like, these like fractals and this geometry and these, amazing colors and lights and this experience. And I remember when I first started getting into it, I would listen to people like, I remember listening to Aubrey Marcus on the Joe Rogan Experience talking about ayahuasca, and this dragon came to him and, all these cool images. And it's like, whoa, wow, that's so cool. And, even with Terrence, talking about the machine elves and this stuff. And it's like, wow, I want to see that. But if you keep going that route, like you're only going to be able to talk to like a very few amount of people. And then like, so plugging into the world and kind of, I think it's like a balance, like a dance kind of, which is hard too, like, which comes with despair, comes with like hope and change. And oh man, I can't believe I just quoted Obama, hope and change. But it comes with hope and like, tremendous hope, and then it comes with like tremendous despair. But yeah, I think that's pretty important. So you post a lot of questions like, what would you do if you had $1 million, and things like this. And I want to pose a question to you. What would you do if tomorrow the entire federal government as we know it is like wiped clean, and you're installed, and everybody else who's like in a psychedelic point of leadership like is installed into the framework of the government that we have? What are we going to do? What decisions are we going to make? We have resources at our disposal. We have endless amounts of money. We have the powers, the levers of control. What's our moves? What's President Xi going to do? So I guess my question would be like, what would you do if you were president? But then again, that would be if the president actually had power and wasn't the alphabet agencies and other corporate interests. But if there was like if tomorrow we woke up and there was like a council of psychedelic people appointed into the levers of control, like what would be some actions? Like what would be some things that you would be wanting to do, and, nations that you would call and things that you would work out or whatever?
Well, I think it depends on which levers of control. I mean, I think the president and all the politicians we see on TV, I don't think they call all the shots. I mean, there's, a lot of the shots are called by the people selling weapons and running the banks and creating debt. So
right.
We
get rid of all of that. We get rid of the whole framework. Basically, what I'm like, the whole framework is gone, and where a psychedelic constituency is appointed into the seats of power, of all the seats of power. What are we doing? What are we going to do?
Well, yeah, I think focusing on community spaces is important. Teaching people how to grow their own mushrooms and other psychedelics. Training a lot of trip sitters and therapists so that people feel like they have support and can talk about their issues. And then also reworking the educational system so that children are taught from many different viewpoints from a young age, and they can decide and make their own decisions and be more creative in the way they come to solutions. Encouraging more sharing circles as well, people talking about their emotions and yeah, those are some of the things I do. And also just making mushroom initiations more of like part of the fabric of the way young kids grow into adulthood, and also all the transitions in life. Like, yeah, like weddings can be about having mushroom journey together and like cementing that bond.
Right. Yeah. Like an
Totally. Yeah.
initiation. Yeah.
Initiations are
Yeah.
they've been used throughout history with all these different tribes. And yeah, and basically every culture except the modern culture had some sort of initiation process where young people were brought into adulthood. I mean, not everyone, but the cultures that were living in these kind of tribal communities, and they that really cared about raising up the next generation for leadership and to become adults so that they can support the whole community. Yeah, I mean, initiation is part of it, and initiation means diving deep into the subconscious or the fears, and getting people to ask questions like, how do I best serve the people, instead of what do I get, how much money can I make, or what kind of career do I have, right? It's more about, okay, what role do I play so that the whole community can benefit from my existence?
Yeah, that's yeah, you're spot on, and I think that like the people that have been practicing these rituals of initiation, yeah, they were in touch with something larger than themselves, and they had a completely different grasp of what it means to be connected to something larger, whether it was the diverse range of cosmology and mythology, right, which I feel like is lacking in our world. We don't really have. What's the one thing that unifies Americans? I don't know, money. I don't know. What else? What else is it? Right? I mean, there's where is there real magical realms of colored and animated stories, that we can like live by, right? I mean, we tend to look back for the mainstream, people, they tend to look at like indigenous tribes of the past and tribal cultures, hunter-gatherer cultures, like, well, they believed in like a 8-headed monkey god, or, they thought that like there was a god in the tree or a god in the thing. And, we're evolved. We're past that. We have science. Science can measure things and tell us, how the world really works. And I think it's just like, I mean, that's just another story. And it's kind of like a boring one. It's like, what, really? Like, you want to go by like numbers and measurement and technical terms for everything? What about like some crazy, fun, cool adventure of like, the spirit of the forest and the spirit of the sun? And I think they were onto something there. And I think that's definitely something we could bring back with when we empower more people to, like you said, have these rituals of initiation, and with communities, autonomous communities with their sovereignty, not imposing our will on others and being like, it's got to be this way, one uniformed way of being.
Yeah.
So diversity would be my, I guess, answer to that too.
And I think less centralization and more decentralization, and more groups of people being able to make their own decisions, as long as it doesn't harm other people. I think that's the way that we have to go as a species in order to evolve. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen, but I think that's the mushroom message, is that every mushroom is unique, and they shouldn't be controlled by one top mushroom that tells them what color they should be, or if they should wear some clothes or something, or that they shouldn't eat a certain type of food, which is basically what is happening now. And giving people more freedom and love. It's all about love, right? So do the leaders of our society love the people, or do they just love money and themselves? Right.
No, I feel Donald Trump loves me, man. He loves me. Yeah. Totally. I think, all right. So who would you appoint to your psychedelic cabinet? Like, let's play a game. Let's do like a psychedelic like all-star team vote. You know, who would you have? Like, you get, I don't know, say, let's do like, how many people are on a basketball team? Five players, six. Got to have a guy on the bench. Do a couple bench players. Let's do like 8, 7 or 8. Let's say
Well,
7 or 8.
well,
Is
first
that
I
too
would
many?
step down from the presidency and live my life in more peace. I would nominate Paul Stamets to be the head of everything. I doubt that he would want anything like that, but yeah, he would be raised up. And yeah, people like Roland Griffiths, you know, a really amazing scientist who is good-hearted, probably has had many mushroom journeys. And then I wouldn't make it about personalities. Of course, yeah, people like Kevin Matthews and Carlos Pozzola, of course, yeah, they're up there. But I would make it more about local councils getting together and making decisions in their own communities. Because yeah, we don't know what's best for the people in Alabama or Alaska or New York. Like they know the lay of the land better than we do, and they know the issues that are running in their own communities. So delegate the responsibility and the power to those closest to the problem. And yeah, and then I would want to disappear basically. Yeah, I wouldn't want to have that kind of those kind of that much responsibility. And also when you get to the whatever the top is, there's people who, yeah, it's like people get jealous, and I'd rather be behind the scenes and advising more than being the face that people know. I don't want to be considered a leader, to be honest. It's too much, you know. People don't really. People just they a lot of people, they think that the leader is going to solve some kind of problem. It's like, no, everyone, we the people have to work together and see each other as equals. And of course, some people have more skills and they're more charismatic and they know how to gather people and they know how to spread a message. But in the end, we're all human beings that are going to die one day. And so let's come to this realization together and work as pleasantly and as cooperatively as possible while we're on this earth to make it as nice as possible for as many people and beings as possible.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, just decentralized local level. I mean, that's really the only way. That's how human beings have lived for thousands of years before the dawn of civilization, which was also the dawn of slavery. You know, it's like what you know, of course there's conflict, of course there's warring tribes, of course you're going to have all that stuff, but at least it's not institutionalized and systemic. And this kind of like, you know, omnipresent toxic swamp of like almost invisible oppression, you know, in a way, you know, invisible tyranny to a certain extent, you know. And it's like, yeah, you have your issues, but I think the best way for people to organize and the best way for people to get along is on a local level. And like whoever wants to, and the kind of person that should be in that position is like the kind of person like what you just said. Is like, look, like I have some ideas, but like, what do you guys think? Like, what can we do? And who's talented at like, you know, growing and cultivating mushrooms, who's talented at like growing herbs, and who's talented at bringing people together for community discussions, who's really vulnerable and can like, you know, inspire other people to open up and to let out the fear and that kind of stuff. And that's going to come in a diverse range of individuals. It doesn't come from one fucking person. And if one person thinks they have all that and they want to do that, I mean, first of all, like you said, that's an insane amount of responsibility and pressure. I wouldn't want that. I mean, that's way too much.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think like grandmothers and mothers and fathers who have many children who have had the kind of responsibility to take care of their family and tribe, I think those are the people who should be raised up. And they might not be visible. They might just be behind the scenes supporting, but I think those are the real leaders. And I think sometimes in the psychedelic world, we tend to forget. It's so, I mean, all these events with faces on the ballot, you know, on the lineup, and it's who's on the lineup. I think we're sort of conditioned to think that that's what it's all about. And I really don't. I think it's okay to be on lineups and to speak the truth if someone invites, but the whole point of life is not to get your face on a lineup. I mean, that's a pretty small goal. So I think shoot for something bigger, and then those opportunities will just come one after the other. Like, you don't have to try to get on stage. People will just ask you because you're doing great things in the world.
Yeah. And I think it is like, kind of letting go. I mean, cause I felt that that tug, like, a lot of the time where I'm like, oh man, like I want to do this. I want to do that. Oh, this person's doing this and I want to do it too. And then the second that I like check myself and I take a step back and I realize like, oh yeah. I'm getting caught up on this thing. And then I just like let it go. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's some stuff that maybe you want to do. And I'm like, oh yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, it's a constant practice. I think that's the key here too. Like taking psilocybin isn't just like that's it. Oh, I took it once, I'm good, and I can go. This is constant practice. And yeah, do you incorporate anything else into your practice? Like, what are some daily chi habits that make you feel aligned and walk in your purpose and in truth and in with integrity and peace too? Some peace of mind.
Yeah. I mean, I try my best to be as generous as possible. I try to see who's in need on my path and do my best to give whatever I can to that person. Of course, I'm just a human being, so it's not infinity, but if I see a homeless person and we have some food on the way home, I'm going to give them some food is the general idea. Yeah, I think it's really small things that make a big difference. And, getting out and walking every day and getting some fresh sun and getting out from behind the computer. And, when the emails pile up and the messages pile up, sometimes I'll just be like, okay, let's just respond to all these at the same time, So doing whatever I can to stop thinking about myself so much and start thinking about the other people who I can serve. Basically, that's the whole path. And I take, vitamin B, vitamin C, and we have some lion's mane that we take. Of course, we have some amazing psilocybin around as well. So yeah, and keeping the gut really clean. So kombucha is something that, we don't buy much, but kombucha is something that we'll spend some money on so that the digestion keeps flowing. And
yeah, shout out to Brew Doctor Kombucha who sent me their kombucha. Nice. So check them out, Brew Doctor. A little plug, gotta do a little plug there.
Nice. Yeah, and eating less, actually, eating healthier, and just. Yeah, it's just little things. I'm not the most disciplined person, to be honest. I'm quite lazy. And, sometimes reading these emails, it really makes me sort of feel down a little bit, especially when I read depression, anxiety over and over. And yes, sometimes I really have to force myself to get out of the house and just walk around and forget about everything. I think that's also part of it, And sometimes totally, we're going to fall into phases of weeks or months where we just feel down and being okay with that and realizing that that's also part of the process is depression can teach us what kind of things we're chasing that we're not supposed to be chasing and what kind of masks that we're wearing that the depression forces us to, it just rips it off basically. So yeah, and then feeling compassion. Compassion is a practice that really helps us. It's really thinking about other people and feeling their pain and, yeah, just feeling into what we can do as individuals and as a society to make life more comfortable and a little less painful for other people.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I think that going into those pits of depression and despair yourself, in my experience, I know what it's like, so when people are messaging me and talking to me about that kind of stuff, man, I've been there. I've been to the darkest of dark places. I've been to a lot of energetic structures of the human experience that I've embodied, whether it's from like mania to depression to bliss to total peace and calm and relaxation to moments of frenzy and, all these kinds of mental and energetic layers that we can wear for periods of time. I think there's a reason why they happen. There's a reason why they're there. They're like messages. They're like information downloads saying like, hey, this is what it's like to be this kind of person. And then when you know that, then you're probably better suited to relate to others and have more compassion and empathy to others who are going through that. So yeah, a lot of people listening to this, like if you find yourselves in those positions, it's not necessarily to get out of that position. I got to get out. I got to feel happy. I got to feel blissed out all the time, love and light, rainbows and unicorns 24/7. Although that is a great place to be, but it's like messages that are being sent to you. It's like a communication, a dialogue. And maybe you need to like shift your path a degree this way or a degree that way, So yeah, good point to bring up there for sure. Well, my man, I think this has been a pretty good conversation, I must say. And I always enjoy talking to you. We should definitely, do this more regularly. I'm looking outside my window. It is sunny and beautiful. And you're just talking about getting out from behind computer screens. So I think that's what I'm about to do. What do you want to? What should we end with here? I don't know. What do you want to say to the people? What are your thoughts? Maybe tell me what you got going on currently. What are you working through right now? And maybe both personally and professionally, what's going on in your world right now?
Yeah, well, working on a presentation. I've avoided speaking on stage for quite a while now, and all of a sudden these invitations started coming in to share, what we've learned through space holding for hundreds of people and watching people go through their own journeys. So yeah, working out a little 20-minute presentation with some slides and practicing it over and over. That's one, because I want to be able to represent and speak for the mushroom in the most professional, I want to be able to channel their wisdom as best as I can. So practicing that, and yeah, there's a lot of things I can't really talk about on, in public, but yeah, a lot of things are happening behind the scenes where, yeah, we're talking with people who are really close to the medicine and seeing what the future of psilocybin looks like and how it's going to get out to the masses in the safest way. And yeah, also just going through my own processes of growing and learning and learning the same lessons over and over, of not having any expectations and watching little bubbles of expectations pop. And no matter what, I'm like, I still always expect things from other people and from the world. So yeah, little expectations, and just being more and more just being okay with these expectations not being met, and just being like, oh, okay. Like, I'll give you one example. Is we hired this woman to write a microdose booklet guide, and she was going to write 20 pages, and that was about 3 weeks ago. And we were like, okay, yeah. We even gave her a little advance, and she's really nice and kind, and she's really into microdosing. She's like, yeah, I've got the outline. I'm going to get some writing done. And then yesterday she wrote, or the day before, she wrote us a message. She goes, you know what? I really can't do this. Like, I have way too much happening in my life, and someone took advantage of me financially, and I'm homeless. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then part of me was like, oh gosh, how could you not tell us earlier? And then I was like, actually, yeah, I'm just wishing you all the best and just letting it go. Yeah, maybe we don't need a microdosing booklet, and for now, and just letting things flow is my my way of practice now.
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, and it is a practice. It's not just like, you're hearing this and you're like, okay, letting things flow, cool, I'm gonna do that. It's like, man, it's work. But make it fun. enjoy it. I think that's the key, right? As like, sometimes you'll pose these questions on Facebook and I'll answer with like a joke because it's just like, I just want to have fun too. I want things to be fun and entertaining. And like, a lot of times we could get bogged down in seriousness, but oh man, this person didn't come through. Oh, they didn't say they were going to do. I remember this, it's so simple. It's simple, but it stuck with me from Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, where he's like, once we can see through, I don't know if he says see through the illusion or see through the drama or whatever he says, we realize that all the problems that we think are problems aren't really problems at all. They're just situations that are coming up. And it's like, okay, here's a situation that happened. Am I going to give my power away to that situation and allow it to infect me and make me deranged by it? Or am I going to like be like, okay, well, that's a situation, I'll deal with it and flow with it. So yeah, it comes with a practice. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. So you're going to be in San Fran soon, Oakland,
Yep,
you're going to be in the
Oakland
Bay Area soon?
on the 20th, and have a bunch of meetings set up, and I'm sure we'll meet more people when I'm up there. But yeah, just exploring what it's like to be living in a place where all entheogens are decriminalized, and seeing the kind of enthusiasm and also seeing what kind of issues crop up and what kind of people start moving and shaking up there when they're a little more free to do so. So yeah, I'm still an entrepreneurial type, and I still like to create things, and I like to be in the middle of some kind of action. So yeah, I'm going up there to explore some opportunities. And also a lot of cannabis people are sort of deserting the industry now in California. So there's this whole group of people that are looking for their next thing to do. So yeah, there's a few cannabis executives up there that want to meet and talk about next steps. So yeah, exploring really, and just staying open and trying to stay as humble as possible, and keep taking the mushrooms. That's for me and for other people as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'd be interested. I saw when you go there, I'm interested to learn if you have an opportunity to check it out. I saw Carlos posting something about like these sort of co-op spaces where people can come and stay, and like you were saying before, you mentioned like good food and good medicine and community. That sounds really appealing to me. I mean, I would love to get something like that going in Denver too.
I'm actually staying at the Haven with Carlos for a few days. And yeah, one other thing I'm really excited for is there's this, the Church of Entheogenic Plants, and it says something like the Church of Cannabis and Mushrooms. And it's called the Zide Door, Zide Door. I think it's in Oakland. But yeah, I'm really excited to go visit that and just hang around these people and see what kind of people come in, and also, what the issues they're running into are, and see how they're flowing and see what's possible. I like to always be at the cutting edge and bring back good news for people who aren't living in these cities and showing people what's possible. I think that's my role right now, is sort of being a messenger and inspiring people to think beyond what they can just see right now in front of their eyes.
I love it. Yeah. All right, man. Yeah. Let me know if you have time for a Denver visit, because, we got quite the scene going on here too. So we'd love to have you. And you have you and your Letty is her name. I was going to say your wife. Is she your
No,
wife?
she's my partner. Yeah. I don't think
partner. Okay, sorry.
I don't think I could get married. I've seen so many. I think marriage is Anyway, I think marriage is an unnecessary institution, but that's just a whole other thing.
I agree. I agree. We could talk more about that another time, but I agree. Anyway, yeah. So you and your partner Letty, I was just gonna say you have a place to stay. You're welcome, and we'd love to have you here and introduce you to the Denver psychedelic scene, because there's a lot of stuff going on here too. And yeah, give my best to the people out there in the Bay Area. I love those people, all of them doing great things. Thank you so much for your time. Tell the people where they can go to find you and follow you and keep up with what you're. I highly recommend following you on Facebook, because that's where you you post a lot of great questions and get a lot of people in good engaging discussions. But where else can people go and if they're interested in maybe taking retreats or trip sitting and all
Probably
that stuff?
The best website is still our main website, which is trufflestherapy.com, TRUFFLES therapy.com. Also, we have another website, tripsitters.org, which lists all the trip sitters in the Netherlands and all the retreats around the world. So if you're looking for a trip sitter, I mean, I would go to that first before coming to Truffles Therapy. And if you feel really like you really want to do with us, then feel free to reach out and we'll do our best to find some time to connect.
All right, Chi. Thanks for spreading the good Chi, the good glee, the good energy. Nice, man. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Till next time.
Thanks, man.
Peace out. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you did, go and leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a 5-star rating and a review if you feel like writing something. That would be great. It helps the show a lot, helps us bump us up in the Apple algorithm, get the podcast exposed to more people. So if you like the show, go ahead and do that. If you want to go a step further, go to patreon.com/MikeBrank. You can donate, become a patron, be a part of the Micadelic Inner Sanctum WhatsApp chat group of people chatting and connecting all around the world. We're finding the others, bringing them together, creating community. One of my favorite things to offer. I also release bonus episodes. Sometimes I do episodes that are kind of raw and kind of beta test them for the producers of the show, which are my patrons, the people who support the show. Big shout out to everybody that's a patron. Thank you for your love and support. If you want to do a one-time donation, go to my website, mikebrank.com. Go to PayPal and do a one-time donation if you feel that. And I really like the method of donation. It's a gifting mentality, and reading Charles Eisenstein's books recently and his talks have really kind of made me embrace the spirit of the gift, of giving and gifting. And what better time than this holiday season to be generous and to give. And, you know, if you like the show, just tell people about it, spread it, share it. Also, contact me. Go to my email on my website, the contact page, mikebrank.com. Reach me on Instagram, Micadelic_podcast. Hit me up on Facebook. Send me your messages. Send me your thoughts. Send me guest suggestions, ideas. Share your story with me. Reach out. Give me feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? And I love to hear from people. I always respond. So you can go ahead and do that. If you're interested in CBD, we have Hemp Bombs as a sponsor. You can go to hempbombs.com, get all kinds of CBD stuff. And I used to take their gummies. I think I'm going to start taking them again. I ran out, so I got to get some more. But they're really good. And yeah, check it out. If you're interested in CBD, you want to give it a try, put in the code Mike15 at checkout and get 15% off all of your CBD wants, desires, needs, and so forth. Big shout out to Danny Barnett and Galaxia for the music, the intro and the outro. And of course, thanks to Muse, who I mash up their song and put the Terrence McKenna clips and everything in without their permission, but somehow I'm still able to do it. So thanks, because I love that. And what else? I don't know. Thank you so much to everybody for your love and support, for listening. And yeah, I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, really can't express how grateful I am that out of all the podcasts out there that you choose this one to listen to. And like I said, let's really make this a collaborative effort. If there's something that you hear, that you notice, you know, something going on with the show that you're like, hey, you used to do this or you do that, or I'd like to see this, or hey, did you ever think about that? Shoot me a message. I'm open. I communicate. I message back. I like this to be a collaborative effort. I want more community involved in this. So anyway, thanks. And till next time, peace.